This whole facility was shut down in the 40s, wasn't it? Some sort of scandal?
A young girl on the staff was accidentally locked in here over the holidays. The inmates kept her hidden for days. She was raped hundreds of times. When they found her, she was barely alive. And with child. That girl was Amanda Kruger. Her child, Freddy. The bastard son of 100 maniacs.
Your crucifix. 7, 8, better stay up late. 9, 10, never sleep again.
Hello, and welcome to Comic Book Bears Presents The Bear Cave of Terror. I'm your hairy, heavy homo and horror fan host, Steve Morey. Each week here in the Bear Cave, I invite a horror-loving guest who brings with them one of their favorite scary movies. It can be classic, gory, trashy, obscure, well-known, or something probably still banned in Britain. In other words, a thrilling work of cinematic terror that we think you might enjoy. In each episode, we'll dig into the flesh and bone of the film, highlighting our favorite scary moments, as well as stories and details from beyond the screen, all while our guest imparts their deep and possibly concerning love for this week's frightful vision unto you, our dear listener. And joining me yet again in the Bear Cave to talk about yet another movie entry in this franchise is Mr. Mike Lovins. Mike, welcome back.
Thank you. Steve, how are you?
I'm doing well. It feels like it's been forever since we've talked.
I know, it's like a dream.
Or a nightmare. So, speaking of franchises, what movie are we going to be talking about today?
Well, I believe today we are talking about A Nightmare on Elm Street 3, The Dream Warriors. And so Freddy's back again. This time we get some old friends from, or at least an old friend from the first movie. And so we get a little bit more connection there. But this time Nightmare on Elm Street goes into a bit of a fantastic world. And we have a lot more characters this time around with and we have the introduction of Patricia Arquette into the franchise and into movies in general, really.
And into our hearts.
And into our hearts, for real though. Yeah, I'm kind of off the cuff here and rambling. So what else would you say?
So I mean, absolutely. This one, the quick synopsis, I guess, of this one is we're introduced to a bunch of young characters, some teen characters who are all residents in I would say it's sort of like a mental hospital or sort of an institute for studying kids with psychological problems. Of course, they're all there because they're suffering from a shared delusion. And that delusion, of course, is Freddy Krueger, who is coming to kill them all, but make it look like a suicide. Yeah. And I think that's kind of the big play here, is that it's capitalizing on the fact that the adults feel that these kids are so depressed and they're just bowled over by modern living that they're offing themselves and don't believe the fact that it's actually tied to their dreams and a real fantastical monster that is
the 80s.
Yeah, the 80s. But in the dream world, they discover that they do have individual superpowers and are able to fight back against Freddy to mixed results. And we'll see how well that happens.
Yeah. Oh, I'll start off by saying when I was a kid after seeing this movie, I would try, like, if I had a nightmare, I would try to, like, make myself Wolverine. I would just try to change myself to something that if I had a dream about Freddy, I could kick his ass.
Right. No, I'm going to say the exact same thing. Maybe not Wolverine, but, I thought that, hey, because they did in this movie, if I ever had a nightmare, maybe I can make use of some kind of superpowers
Yeah.
and fight back. And it's cool. It's like an empowering kind of thing that happens after watching this movie when you're a kid. Because I saw this probably about the same time as the first two, around 9-10 years old, on TV, and I thought it was one of the coolest movies ever.
Yeah, this is my favorite of the franchise. I think I may have mentioned that in the last one, but this movie has everything to me that makes me love a movie. It's got humor, it's got horror, it's got gore, but it's got heavy metal.
Right. It does. It's got all the things kids love these days.
Exactly.
Or those days in the late 80s, 1987, when it was released.
When I saw it, that's also when I was starting to get into comic books and that kind of stuff. So, or had been reading them for very little, but the idea of the superhero personas that these kids take on in their dreams really spoke to me too.
Same here. And I was at that age where I was getting really into comics, and, seeing this just kind of extended that sort of wish fulfillment feeling that a lot of kids get when they are first reading superhero comics.
Yeah.
I mean, these were superheroes. These teens were superheroes to me, certainly. And yes, some of them didn't meet the prettiest ends when fighting back against the evil villain in this one, Freddy. But just seeing that on screen was so cool. Seeing them sort of use their powers to just do some cool, flashy stuff. Before the end. So it was fun, and I love the fact that it was going back to that idea of fantasy that I know Wes Craven was talking about in the first film. But speaking of Wes Craven, did he have much to do with this one?
From what I understand, he at least wrote a draft of the script or started something with it. I know he's listed as one of the screenwriters. So, how much of it they used, I don't know, but
yeah, and I know that there was a point where they had tried taking his name off the script, but then it got stuck in WGA arbitration because they did use the original base of the script to then embellish it and rewrite it. And the two people that they had to rewrite it, or at least to add to it, were the eventual director, first-time director, Chuck Russell, and his buddy, good old Frank Darabont. I don't know if anybody's heard of him.
Just a little guy named Frank Darabont.
Yeah, just some guy.
Yeah.
But, so some of the base ideas and plot points are definitely Wes Craven's. And a big one of that is the return of Heather Langenkamp's Nancy. Was part of his original script, and they kept that because she connects it back to the first movie as much as the house that was established as kind of like a connective tissue in the second film is now yet again showing up in the third film, and it's clearly now Freddy's house. No longer Nancy's house, no longer Jesse's house from the second movie, it's Freddy's house.
Yeah, and what I love really from here on out, the house becomes as much of a character as Freddy himself. All the haunted house kind of, not like ghosts in the house. I mean, like you walk through on Halloween and all the shit that's in a house that scares the living crap out of you, is in there. So the inclusion of Nancy in this movie, and then of course Daddy John Saxon later on, it really did the thing that I felt was missing from part two, with that direct connection to the first one. And I think I had mentioned when we were talking about the second one, how then from here on out, it feels like there's always something from the previous movie that gets carried over. And having Nancy as kind of an anchor point in this, it was definitely the right call. Some of the juxtaposition of the way that what she could do in the first one versus what Kristen could do in this one just really work. And I love just having those tiebacks.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And actually, speaking of, like you said, the connection between Nancy's ability, which it's interesting in this movie, it kind of puts what she does in the first movie in a different light, where she has the ability to pull things from the dream world out into the real world, like Freddy's fedora or his, or him, to Kristen, who can, Patricia Arquette, who can pull people in, whether they're people who are sleeping or people awake. And she pulls them into her dream world as well, is so cool.
Well, I love the story too that she tells, that Kristen tells about. She used to pull her dad into her dreams, and her dad would talk about it the next day and just act like it was, feel like it was just his dream. And she never said anything, but it's just, for as fantasy filled as this movie is, I felt like something like that kind of humanized the character.
Yeah. And just these kids felt pretty real. I mean, the way that they portrayed them, and again, the actors on this one, I do have the cast list up just so I can, double check myself, but Patricia Arquette as Kristen, Rodney Eastman as Joey Crussell, who was the kid who couldn't speak. You had Jennifer Rubin as Taryn White, Ken Sagos as Roland Kincaid, Ira Hayden as Will Stanton, and Bradley Gregg as Philip, as well as Penelope Sudrow as Jennifer Caulfield. And all of them were fully realized characters. I mean, they were instantly recognizable as, I would say, very realistic as can be in this kind of movie, but like realistic characters where you felt like you understood who they were right away. Just a few lines of introduction or like an offhand comment from Lawrence Fishburne as an orderly.
Larry Fishburne.
Larry at the time, correct. Before Cowboy Curtis,
Yeah.
This is early. But, just a few offhand comics, you feel like these kids. You feel like who they are. And when their powers are revealed, when they're, opening themselves up in the different group sessions that they have, you're like, yeah, this makes sense for this character. I think they're so grounded, I think, but also, they make the fantasy believable. And
but it's funny. So this came out in 1987. So this came out the same year that the Lost Boys did. And I kind of felt like Philip had a little bit of a wanting to be Corey Feldman kind of vibe. So,
yeah,
I don't know which one came out first or whatever, or whether that there was any influence there or not. But I feel like in my high school, I felt like I knew a Philip. I knew a Kincaid. I definitely knew a Taryn or two in the crowd that I hung out with. They, for whatever problems they were dealing with, you're right. They felt believable. They felt like real people that, if they weren't living their demons so much in that, you could know people like.
Absolutely. And, even with the adults in the room who are kind of treating them like they're all delusional. These kids are psychotic in every way, shape, or form, and kind of ignoring who these kids are until Nancy shows up, until Heather Langenkamp's Nancy shows up and is like, no, I know these kids and I know what they're going through. And this is deeper than just sort of like the easy psychological answer that can be treated with pills.
When Kristen is freaking out in the hospital and she starts reciting the Freddy Krueger nursery rhyme, and she gets hung up at the end, and Nancy comes in and finishes it. Chills, I swear to God, one of the best character intros ever.
Oh, same thing with me. And again, I think that's one, it's good writing, and good direction. Although I'm going to talk about Chuck Russell a little bit and how the cast kind of saw him at the time. It's definitely good characterization from the actors there. They just made it so real. But I think it also has to do with the audience themselves finding that connection and just, and it happens sometimes with sequels. And it's one of the reasons why people love some sequels more than others is because there's that interlocked continuity that it just like, hey, that thing, it fits. Like it all just like works, the flow continues.
When they hug, they're literally bringing the two together.
Yeah. Exactly. And when she calls Nancy for the first time into her dream, and Nancy
Yeah.
like basically comes there to save her from a really cool practical effect, and we'll talk about that. But just that in general, it's feel good. It's like it kind of like adds to the excitement and the enjoyment of this film, that you're like, hey, this has not only connective tissue, but like these characters are really like, this is what I want to see. I want to see these characters work well together and, you know, have that kind of emotional connection.
And you know, I don't know what the budget was for this movie. I looked it up for the last one, but I forgot to look it up for this one. I do feel like this movie felt a step above the previous two in its production. And I guess even in its, I would say in its cast, I mean, there's certainly more characters, but bringing back, it's only the third movie, but I'll say legacy characters. But then in hindsight, you're looking at some of the names and you're like, oh man, how'd they get Lawrence Fishburne? How'd they get, Patricia Arquette? But they were nobody then.
Yeah. This was early. This was early in their careers. This was Patricia Arquette's first movie. This was her first big role.
And she has gone on to superstardom. I mean, really, so is Lawrence Fishburne.
Yeah. I mean, they've worked continuously. They've worked continuously since this.
Yeah.
Some of the other actors and, have changed their careers. I mean, Heather Langenkamp, this was never her focus anyway. Like she went straight from acting to like going to school. She was in Stanford.
Yeah.
She got married. She was like, I've got a life. I've got other things that I want to do.
Was she on a sitcom though?
Yes, she was on a sitcom. She did some TV and made some other appearances, but like that was always secondary. Like her work was always kind of secondary to her personal life and, the things that she wanted to do with her life that was outside of, acting. And of course, now she and her husband own a special effects company, I think it is. And,
I was going to say, doesn't that kind of come up in a later movie?
I believe so.
But yeah, good for her. She's the kind of person that, like, I love her in these movies, and anytime she would just pop up in something, regardless of what, I'd always love to see her.
Yeah.
Yeah,
she's fun, and I appreciate what she brings to the characters, but I also appreciate as an actor, like what she does personally, and that's awesome. I could have loved seeing her in many other things, but she didn't want that. Really, that wasn't her focus. Some of these other actors have gone on to do other roles, mostly minor roles, in a lot of places here and there, a lot of TV, but also like horror genre stuff. But yeah, I mean, two major standouts: Larry Fishburne, and Patricia Arquette. Like, to have this be one of their, early works is pretty wild, and probably helped them a lot, helped launch them quite a bit.
I've loved Patricia Arquette's career from there, and how she's kind of weaved in and out of movies and TV. And like, I was a huge fan of that show Medium that she was in. I mean, she comes from some pretty,
there's some Nepo baby stuff there.
She's got some stock, out there, but her on her own, I mean, I felt like she was definitely a standout in this movie. I mean, you can tell that she was destined for something. Take her name out of it. She acted her ass off in this movie. Girl can scream. She got some lungs.
Yeah. Scream queen, yes.
I hurt my throat listening to her, all the screaming that she was doing. Yeah, I don't know if she did really much any horror after that. She certainly didn't come back for the fourth one, even though Kristen was in the fourth one. I by then I don't know. She had some Hollywood calling.
Yeah. Well, I mean, she did do horror again. I mean, you could talk about Medium. Has its moments, but
that's true.
Was generally more of a mainstream supernatural show. She did have another one of my favorite 90s horror movies, Stigmata. She was the main protagonist in that one.
Yeah.
But where she got to use her screams again. She worked out her lungs on that one. But yeah, I mean, I thought this was a great vehicle. And it's funny that you're saying, it's like, yeah, you can tell by watching this that she was destined for greater things, because the director did not feel that way at the time. So Chuck Russell, being, a first-time director, had a very different style. And Nancy, or Heather Langenkamp, talks about this, and John Saxon talk about this in terms of direction styles between him and Wes Craven. And Wes was a little bit more like, hey, have fun with this character. We're going to work a couple different things and see what works best. And, you feel it out and see what you can do. Whereas Chuck was like, this is how I want to see the character. This is how I want you to do it. This is how I want the scene to go. And was very structured, which is a different kind of directing style. And it works with some people. But I think he got really frustrated with Patricia Arquette because there were some scenes where she just wasn't getting the line right, or, he didn't think that she was, performing in a way that would be consistent with a professional, in certain aspects. And so they didn't really have the best relationship at the time of filming. And, there's a lot of frustration there. But then again, a lot of the other cast also had frustration with him because he was like, we're going to work here. We're going to keep at it until we get it right. And by right, I mean the way that I see it. And, especially they all talk, all the actors and, reading some of the contemporary interviews at the time from 1987, when they were talking about this, they all sort of point to the same scene, and that's the hell boiler room scene towards the end of the movie, as being a scene where everybody was basically, all the actors were on edge and pissed off, and the production staff was angry, and everybody was having a terrible time because it was hot. They had no AC down there, like in the soundstage. Everybody was on edge, and it got to the point where the producer had to step in, set everybody down, and like, listen, cut the shit. Like, we're all pissed off, but we got jobs to do. And like, kind of had to bring everybody together to like cool them all down because nobody was having it. And a lot of it, they said, was because of Chuck's directorial style. Now, I mean, obviously, he's gone on to do other things, and it was his first directing job. So, he was learning as much as, like, say, a Patricia Arquette being her first major acting job, too. So it was an interesting movie. And what came out of it is a classic. So no matter the conflict that they had behind the scenes, like, it came out looking great.
Yeah, it looked great. I thought it was a very creative story. It had some of the most, I'll say the word again, creative kills. Just the way that they could incorporate, basically having all these kids in one location, but the way that they were able to make each one of the personalities so different, which led to their particular death be so unique. It really was. I think for the first time, it felt like each person's death was very tailored to who they were.
Yeah. Not to say that the deaths in the previous movies weren't unique, but they were just kills of opportunity. So like, Freddy would take them to a place that, he was familiar with and would slice them up. So they would end up being killed in a boiler room or, in the alleyway or, something that would be more connected to him than to their experiences. In the second one, a lot of the deaths were done out in the real world. So it was just like, again, kills of opportunity. Where they were, that's where they got killed. But this one, he had unique dreams, or they were unique dreams for all of them, where Freddy was, the antagonist and they were fighting back against him. Where, again, previously didn't really fight back other than Nancy.
But it also makes sense where your own dreams are going to be about something that in some way makes sense to you. And as we've said before, Freddy likes to toy with the people. And by giving them the false impression that they either have the leg up or that they're having a happy dream, giving them something they want for just a moment, and then literally pull the ground out from under them. That's where, like, I don't know how much of that came from Wes Craven or if that was the Chuck Russell and Frank Darabont. Like, some of that feels kind of Frank Darabont. The writing for this, I do really feel like was elevated.
And they thought about, they thought very, very succinctly about what would make sense for that character. So when Jennifer's character is watching TV, and so she falls asleep in front of the TV, and what is she watching? She's watching a Hollywood, like an interview, a late night talk show with Dick Cavett and Zsa Zsa Gabor.
Love that too.
Dick transforms into, it pans away, and it's Freddy Krueger, and his line, "I don't give a fuck what you think, Zsa Zsa," and goes in for the kill. But then also, the practical effects in this one, because of the creativity of the dream sequences, they continue that through with how Freddy appears and what Freddy does. So it's not just him in the sweater and the fedora with the knife hand. It's his head popping out of the TV and his arms like coming around, being made of like the cables from the interior of the TV.
Which was so cool.
that death, I mean, that is one of the most memorable in the entire series. I mean, just how they did that, picking her up and sticking her head in there. Welcome to prime time, bitch. Yeah. Which was an improv line, by the way. Robert Englund did that. That was not in the script.
He's brilliant. He's so great.
He knows the character.
He does.
Is the character.
But like Philip's death, to me, like I've always been freaked out by marionettes. Never liked them. And I mean, they're fun and all that stuff. But if I saw like a marionette show, a puppet show at night or something like that, it would freak me out. I saw somewhere that the Freddy marionette, like they did it in reverse. They started with the clay looking like Freddy, and then they slowly smoothed it out and then played it in reverse to get that effect of it becoming him. But just like that was so cool. The beginning, the effects, whether they're practical or not in this movie, were just so good. Kristen's reason for going into the hospital, that sequence of the sink handle, the faucet or whatever, grabbing her and then twisting her arm, and then her mom busting into the room, and she's standing there holding like it's just so clever and so good. The writing of that and the how they made that happen.
So Kevin Yeager, who was doing a lot of the makeup effects in this one, again, further refining Freddy, but also, him and the rest of the special and practical effects, the mechanical effects teams, creating these amazing pieces. Sometimes on a pretty thin budget. Some of them had a lot bigger budget, but there were some effects there that didn't even make it to the final film. I think like the dead girl that Kristen rescues in the opening dream. The original design for that, the emaciated, deathly form of that girl was even more terrifying than what they eventually ended up with, which was just like getting a little skeleton and sticking hair on it. Even the death of Taryn, where the little mouths are opening up in her tracks, like, in her veins, and Freddy's got like just the fingers full of syringes. That was just terrifying. That was so memorable, and so visceral to see. And there was an effect where her head was supposed to actually explode from the drugs being pumped into her. It didn't happen, but it didn't have to. Like there was, just everything kind of was tailored so well.
I actually kind of think I like how it happened more so than if her head had exploded.
Yeah, I mean, you hear her death threat, like her scream, sort of off camera, where it's following the other kids, but it's pretty wacky. Some of the other ones, like Joey getting captured by the object of his desire, the nurse, who takes him into a room and is like, I've always found you to be the cutest, and takes her top off, and they're making out on the bed, and then she spits these tongues out at him that trap him, that bond him to that bed. It's just, I mean, it's clever, it's wild, it's gross, but it looks so good. It looks so real. The only effect I think I had an issue with was the Ray Harryhausen sort of homage at the end, or closer to the end,
skeleton
with Freddy's skeleton.
Yeah.
But even then, it's not a long effect. It doesn't take forever to resolve itself, and ends up looking okay otherwise.
Sure. Yeah, no, I get that though. Yeah.
Yeah. And also I was sad because it was the reason why Daddy John Saxon is no more. But yeah, I mean, I'm going to go back and kind of agree with you with the marionette death image. Not that I'm afraid of marionettes. I actually love puppetry and love marionettes especially. But the idea of having Philip's veins and muscle tendons double as the strings, and just seeing them being pulled out of him, and just the pain in his face when he's being guided by them, that was probably one of the most terrifying and most, like, you could feel it. Like, you could feel things being pulled out. Just clever and horrifying at the same time. So, yeah, I mean, I just think that overall the creativity that went into this, into the kills, but also just the realization of matching them with the personalities of the characters, of the kids and everything is perfect.
I don't think they've done it like that since either.
They've certainly done creative kills, but having them so geared towards the individual, I think they kind of mixed them from then
Yeah,
on.
the girl that worked out in 4, like, die on the bench press, and
Yeah.
or was that 5? I don't know. 4 and 5, I always get mixed up.
Yeah. I'm thinking like there's the video game one in 6 because there's a kid who's like really into video games, and then they basically kill him in Super Mario.
True. I guess so. Yeah.
The Roach Motel, things like that. Yeah. So there's
Well, yeah, the girl who gets stuffed, her face gets stuffed, and
yeah,
that was gross.
Because she has the eating disorder,
Yeah.
and yeah.
So okay,
yeah,
so I take that back, rewind that, and then all that out.
But yeah, I think this movie gave later filmmakers who were part of this franchise the permission to be as creative and, wild with their deaths, imaginative with the deaths that they could be, and I think some of obviously limitations prior to this were budget, but even with a limited budget, you could still make some really amazing stuff and make it be very catered to that particular character so that it's more memorable and crazier and wilder and I think more fun. Which is one of the things that Nightmare on Elm Street is known for is like, there's fun, there's creativity. You've got Freddy's one-liners and dad jokes and zingers contrasted with a completely silent killer in The Shape in the Halloween series, who really is just basically stabbing people or,
Same with
slicing
Jason.
them. And Jason, same thing. Gets a machete, gets a, whatever, and he's just cutting people in half or stabbing them, most of the time. And again, silent. There's no zingers. There's no, like, fun little commentary that goes with it. But Freddy has the benefit of the fantasy of being part of that dream world where anything can happen. And I think this movie really steps into that 100%.
I cannot disagree.
Speaking of practical effects, I did want to bring up one of the coolest and memorable images, not necessarily a death, but an attempted murder, is Kristen being attacked by the giant Freddy worm. So I think it's gorgeous. I think it's terrifying, absolutely terrifying. The design of it on camera and on the film looks crazy. It's just bluish, greenish, just black and gray, whatever, covered in slime. And it like grabs onto her from the bottom and then like starts eating her. And it's just such a gross, disgusting image. And then Nancy arrives and pulls her out, and the face just kind of like rears back and it's fully articulated. That's cool practical effects. And apparently with Kevin Yeager and the rest of the production team making these things, they had 3. So they made 3 of them. They made a giant one that was a little bit more of just for like the motion. They had a smaller one that was eating her. So like the one that's eating her it's actually shorter and allows them to just kind of like stuff her in there and then like pull her out and then do the film in reverse. And then the third one, which is the fully articulated face with animatronics. However, the original design on it and coloring was Freddy's flesh colored. Like there's a reason why he's like a dark brown, blue, red kind of whatever. It doesn't look like, it just looks like he's kind of like gross and deathly. It's because when he was Freddy's flesh colored, it looked like a giant penis. And that was something that the production crew and Chuck Russell were like, that's a little too much.
The criticism from the last movie.
Yeah, let's kind of step away. And actually, stepping away from the sexuality, that scene aside, there really is only one other sexy moment, and that is, Joey's
nurse,
with the nurse, where, she's topless, obviously, but then it becomes less erotic and more like horrifying when she starts spitting tongues out at him and then just turns into Freddy. And that was going to be even more disturbing because she had like a full Freddy makeup at one point, and so it was just Freddy's head and face and then the rest of her body. And I think they were like, that's going to be a little bit too confusing for a lot of guys. And maybe it's a good thing they didn't have it, because then we would have like a whole subset of people who were obsessed with like women with crazy old man makeup. Just that would be a little too much.
I want to go back real quick to the worm scene, because that scene has one of my favorite moments in the movie as well. And it's when the Freddy worm face sees Nancy and recognizes her, just you. Oh, that's another chills moment for me with that movie. It's just like, oh, that got good.
Yeah, because both of them, Nancy knew that she had defeated Freddy, but also understood that, the way the rules work, he can't really stay defeated necessarily, or at least, his influence remains. Whereas I think Freddy kind of thought that he was done with her because he's moved on from Elm Street now. He's no longer stuck at the house. He's he's not on the street. These are the final Elm Street kids that Nancy does say, but for him he's no longer tied to the geography of the street. Like now it's gone beyond that. Now he's at a mental institution that who knows where that is. It could be somewhere upstate. So I just think that there's a lot of really good choices that are made in this story-wise, but also just portrayals. Just really, really work well. Speaking of portrayals, the mom in this, Kristen's mother, played by Brooke Bundy. I mean, she's terrible. She's a bad mom. She's a bad mommy. Like, Kristen, you just want attention. Like, you're only trying to kill yourself for attention. And plus, I've got a dude I got to entertain over here.
A very soap opera mom.
Very much like the clothing and everything, the hair. You're just sort of like, I've got parties to go to. You're weighing me down, girl.
I'm late for Dynasty.
Yeah, I'm late for Dynasty, and then I've got to pop over to Knots Landing. But hilariously enough, and again, Never Sleep Again, wonderful documentary, they interview Brooke Bundy about this and how she got the rhythm of the character. And she's like, well, I had a teenage daughter about the same age, and we were going through some difficult relationship times. So I just tapped into that to kind of understand the relationship between Kristen and her mom. And interestingly enough, her daughter is also in horror movies and was in a horror movie at the same time, a little one called Friday the 13th Part 5. Tiffany Helm is her daughter in real life. And so it's kind of funny that, like, while she was getting beheaded, the mother was getting beheaded in one movie, her daughter was getting, killed by Jason in another one. So it kind of worked out. I think the relationship kind of healed itself after that, I would think.
Mutual mutilation.
There's so many interesting little stories and tidbits from the characters and the actors behind the scenes on this movie. Another way to sort of promote this film, and that's through the soundtrack, specifically a particular track by a couple young gentlemen go by the name of Dokken.
Yeah. Well, one of them is named Dokken. Collectively, they all go by Dokken. Yeah. And this was prime me. At 1987, I was every Saturday night. I was up till 2 a.m. watching Headbangers Ball. I mean, like, that 80s hair metal was so my thing, and that video for the song Dream Warriors was I mean, if I wasn't already interested in that movie, that would have made me interested in that movie. They had Patricia Arquette in the video, and plus the song is just a banger. I have the 12-inch single, by the way, of that. What I think is funny though is the song is played in the end credits, but there is a Dokken song being played at the beginning of the movie when she's building the paper mache popsicle stick house. And that song's called Into the Fire, and it's on their album Tooth and Nail, which then Taryn, she's wearing a Dokken t-shirt in the hospital that has the album cover for Tooth and Nail on there. Those are the things that I'm gonna pick up on. But then from there on, well, not there on out, but at least I think 4 and 5, there was always some kind of song that was tied to the movie too. 4 had Vinnie Vincent Invasion, and then I think 5 had Fat Boys. So music became a very important marketing tool for this franchise.
Well, I think it's also cool because bands for a time, for a while at that time, especially metal bands, had been using horror imagery from popular horror movies, in their music and their live performances, referring to it in songs and whatnot. And this was the film industry itself taking that and bringing it back and saying, like, hey, You guys are using our imagery as well. How about we use your music? We work together on this.
It was a beautiful marriage.
That music video, I hadn't seen it before, but I watched it several times today. They take a lot of that footage from the film, but then there's a point where the film footage stops, and it's Patricia Arquette again, specifically for this.
Yeah.
And, where she's appearing with the band.
The biggest one to me is in the room, in the room where the worm would have come out. Instead, George Lynch walks through the wall and does his guitar solo.
With the skeleton guitar.
Yeah.
Like, that's just so cool. And you can see her, she goes from horrified to like, yeah. And then, of course, they confront Freddy at the end, and just having Freddy wake up with a doll, like a little girl doll, and go, oh, that was terrifying. Who were those guys? Just that was so clever. And they actually included it on the VHS release of the movie. So once it came out on video, they had a copy of the music video play on the tape as well. Just really cool.
I'm sure they had the title of the movie before the title of the song, but I love that the song took the title of the movie. Like, the other songs that were incorporated later didn't do that. It was just so perfectly tied together. Like, you hear that song, because there's a lot of times there might be a big song from a movie, but if all you do is hear the song, you might not know it's from a movie, or it doesn't make you think about the movie. You have no choice but to think about that movie.
What am I listening to? Oh, here comes the chorus.
Yeah.
That's right. That's right. And it's a cool song.
It's funny because just behind the scenes with us here, you were playing that song when I logged in, and I started singing along. I don't know if you heard me singing along or not, but you stopped the song and I kept singing. I was like, oh.
Sadly, I did not get that in the recording.
Yes, sadly.
I thought it's definitely a banger. It's definitely a fun earworm. So if you haven't heard it, definitely check it out. It's on. You can go on the Dokken channel on YouTube. It's all over there, and you can watch the video as well. But yeah, it was just really it's a cool inclusion. And when we talk about music for horror movies, a lot of times it's more atmospheric than anything. This one is a commercial hit song.
The other example I think of when I think of a song tied to a movie like that, horror-wise at least, is if you haven't heard it, Alice Cooper's "He's Back, the Man Behind the Mask," which is his song for one of the Friday the 13th movies. And like the song literally starts, and it's, oh, well, he's back, man behind the mask. It's so cool. And more useless knowledge that I always have with this kind of genre. It's on the album Constrictor, and Kip Winger from the band Winger was his bass player at the time. And so he's playing bass on that track and doing the backing vocals, and you can definitely hear his voice. Not everyone's going to even know who the hell Kip Winger is that's listening to this, but I'm just, those are the rabbit holes that I can go down.
Hey, very admirable, because I cannot.
A lot of those bands, when I'm talking like Winger and Dokken and stuff like that, my mom liked those bands too. So
lucky, yeah.
We would dance to Whitesnake.
I also this month I also watched the original Witchboard from 1987, and starring none other but then Tawny Katane.
Never seen that movie. I might have to check that out.
It's got some interesting stuff in it, but the story's not
Was
great.
there a remake of that, or are they doing a remake?
Yes, last year.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
didn't see that either.
Had some bizarre moments, I will tell you, that I'm just sort of like, who wrote that? Sober. No one.
Well, back to Elm Street real quick. This movie also, I think, had the most people survive.
It wasn't just a final girl, it was a final group.
Yeah, I think so. Kristen, Joey, and Kincaid all went on to Nightmare on Elm Street 4. I don't think any one of them made it out of Nightmare on Elm Street 4, but they at least made it into that movie.
And Nancy and Daddy John Saxon, I mean, both of them did meet their end in this movie. So they, it ends their story. And I think maybe that's kind of the precedent that then sets. So it connects, like the characters might connect from film to film, but then those previous characters can get killed off in the next film and pass the baton to the next group, and so on and so forth. I mean, It is interesting that it's not just a final girl. It's a final girl and two guys, who make it out and can say their goodbyes to Nancy and everything. And in this stage, it looks like Freddy is defeated, but of course, you get the little light that turns on in the popsicle stick version of the house.
Also, I want that prop.
That's such a cool prop. And it makes an appearance in the Dokken video where it ends up with like pictures of the band on the back. That we didn't see. We only saw the front of it, but now on the back, apparently it's just plastered with, Enemy or Rolling Stone pictures of the band. Ah, awesome. Well, this is, again, I'm so glad that you wanted to talk about number 3, because number 3 is definitely one of my favorites, longtime favorites from when I was a kid, and for all the reasons that we mentioned.
Yeah.
Why it's so cool.
Yeah.
Well, thank you very much. You've just listened to another episode of The Bear Cave of Terror. And if you haven't seen A Nightmare on Elm Street 3, The Dream Warriors, or after listening to us are struck with an irresistible compulsion to watch it again, it is streaming on HBO Max and available digitally and on physical media, especially in that new, really fancy 4K box set that's on sale now. But otherwise, you can get it, I'm sure, pretty much anywhere else. And Mike, if listeners would like to get in touch, how would they do that?
Best way is just at Real Game Movie Show, REEL, on Blue Sky, Instagram, or Facebook. Instagram's probably the best. I check all the comments, so if you want to get a hold of me, or at least just check out the stuff that I do and the podcast that I'm on, there it is.
Awesome. And you can also, if you want, follow the Bear Cave of Terror on Blue Sky and Instagram at Bear Cave of Terror, all one word, or send an email over to bearcaveofterror@gmail.com. List of sources will be available in the show notes. So if you'd like to learn more about Nightmare on Elm Street 3 or the documentaries that we've talked about. And remember, if you ever find yourself a young and up-and-coming nun, don't take that Christmas Eve shift to the hospital for the criminally insane. Bad idea. Good night, everyone.
School?
Not in the beginning. I started on a talk show,
But when a young actress says, how do you succeed in this business, you don't always say you have to study.
I think you should study. Study, work, and then maybe you can make it.
Can I ask you something?
Certainly.
Who gives a fuck what you think?